Hi everyone, here Martino from NoBSJJ. I want to make a video about snapping. I'll be breaking down the match between Achilles and Nathan in the latest UFC Fight Pass. And I want to address three uses of the snap. Okay, especially this is a question that I get a lot from beginners. They think that snapping is all about getting your opponent's hands to the ground. And sure, that is true. That is one of the ways in which we snap and one of the reasons why we snap. And it's definitely an amazing way to start approaching all your snapping motions, as in that should be your ultimate goal. But by no means that should be the only goal, and that should be the only reason why you snap. And so what happens a lot to beginners is that when they start snapping and they realize that they don't get the hands to the ground, then they start getting frustrated, and then they just either stop snapping or they just do something else. Okay? In this video I want to show you guys how two pros they use snapping for different reasons besides taking your opponent's hands to the ground and getting straight into front headlock actions. So there you go. Three main reasons. Number one, probing your opponent's reactions. Okay, and you can see immediately here the match starts, and you can already see some snapping action. You can see here what is sometimes referred as a multi-snap action, in which Achilles starts snapping with his left hand and then snaps with his right hand. This is extremely annoying, extremely uncomfortable. 1, 1, 2. There you go. Now this will unlikely bring Nathan's hands to the ground, especially so early in the match. But it's a great way for Achilles to start testing and probing Nathan's reaction, just sort of saying, hey, what do you do when I do this, right? Do you come forward? Do you disengage? Do you get nervous? Do you immediately collapse to quad pod? What do you do when you start sort of putting a little bit of weight on the back of your head? So you can see immediately here multi-snap action from Achilles. And in a very similar way, you can see here, this is very subtle, but you can see here Achilles taking an overtie and having like what we know what is known as a pump snap, a sort of pump snapping action. It's fairly subtle, but if you look closely, you can kind of see Nathan getting a collar tie. Well, that's not subtle at all, that's very clear, but you can see here overtie 1, 2, 3. There you go. It was very subtle, but it's visible there. It's a very good way of just, again, kind of probing and kind of testing your opponent's collar tie, just to see, how much they're actually committing to the grip and to the connection, right? Now, another great reason why you should always be snapping your opponent's head is to reset the position, right? But oftentimes we engage in a position that either we shouldn't have engaged into, or for whatever reason we don't feel comfortable, or the hand fighting is just simply not going the way we want. We didn't sign up for this. Our opponent got a grip that is favorable to them and not to us. And so snapping is a great way to just reset the position. And you can see here there's a major difference in the way Nathan resets and the way Achilles resets. You can see this in a second, right? Now, you can see here Achilles immediately gets an amazing sort of elbow pass with this elbow, with triceps grip, right? Sort of monkey grip. This is something we'll be hitting throughout this match. He gets like this monkey grip on the elbow, on the triceps rather, and then it's a sort of elbow pass immediately threatening the back. And here we go, right? Eventually Nathan manages to sort of run away, but now he's very aware of the fact that this triceps grip is very, very dangerous, right? And so when they re-engage, it seems like Achilles is kind of conceding inside position. You see he's kind of conceding the collar tie at one price. Then now Achilles has outside position. And there you go. He gets this grip once again, right? And now Nathan knows that this is a very dangerous grip. So Nathan does a reasonable, sensible thing. He just decides to hit the reset button and just disengage. And how he does that? You can see here, he just literally pushes Achilles away. This is a great way of disengage. It's a very low tech, way of doing it, but it works. Okay, it's a legitimate attempt to disengage, and as a matter of fact, it works. Now the two athletes are disengaged. Now, in a few seconds, you will see a similar exchange in which Achilles has to disengage, and you can see how Achilles instead of just sort of pushing Nathan away, will use a snapping motion to disengage. And you can see here, Nathan catches this inside grip, right? You can see this is a very powerful wrestling grip in which I grab with and my fingers meet on the far side, as it were, on the outside, so my hand stays on the inside of my partner's arm. This is very powerful because it really helps me kind of bringing the elbow and the arm and sort of the arm and the wrist away from the hip and the rib cage, so it opens up a space to hit duck unders, single legs, and all sorts of arm drags, and all sorts of wrestling positions. And so this is not good. This is a grip that is favorable for Nathan. And so Achilles, instead of just sort of pushing Nathan away, which is what Nathan did to Achilles, is going to start snapping him a few times. There you go. 1, 2, 3, and he snaps him. Okay? You can see here something very, very interesting that I often talk about in my classes, which is this idea of forcing your partner into a reactive step. You can see here Nathan has a stagger stance, as in left leg, a right leg forward, and left leg back. And what Achilles will achieve with his snapping is will force Nathan to take a step that he wouldn't have taken otherwise, as in forces a reactive step. And whenever you can force a reactive step on your partner, that's often a great thing, because it means that you're leading the dance, your partner is carrying body weight, and he ends up stepping there where he wouldn't have stepped otherwise, which means that you can intercept the leg, you can capitalize on the step with a foot sweep, and so on and so forth, right? Which here it doesn't happen. The snap has a merely disengaging function, but it's still a very interesting exchange, and is a bit more refined than just sort of pushing your opponent away. And there we go, to get rid of the grip, he uses a snapping motion, and there you go. Eventually, Nathan gets rid of the grip, catches a collar tie, which grants Achilles yet again this monkey grip on the tricep that he was looking for all along. And now finally, and this is where we get to what most people think when they think about snapping, which is actually getting the hands to the floor, right? And you can see here again from this over tie situation, Achilles starts to snap, and there we go. He gets the hands to the floor, right? Now this is an interesting exchange because Achilles kind of bows forward, gets rid of the collar tie, but now he doesn't quite try to capitalize on this. He could have, right? Now there's chest to back exposure, there's back of the head exposure. He could have shot for a front headlock or a cradle, or he could have waited for Nathan to come back up and shoot a single leg or a double leg or an ankle pick, whatever the case might be, right? So he could have used this as a legitimate positional advance attempt, but instead he just used a strong over tie snap just to disengage, bowing, getting rid of the collar tie, and moving forward. Okay, this goes to show that even if you do get your partner's hands to the ground, you don't necessarily need to just throw yourself, as soon as you see a little bit of back exposure. Sure, it would have been a great idea. Yeah, probably. But for whatever reason, he chose not to, right? And eventually, the only real sequence in the match in which you see quite a bit of, in this match you've seen quite a bit of snapping action, but as a matter of fact, the only sequence in which you actually see someone capitalizing on this snapping motion is here. Whenever this was after a scramble, you can see Achilles in sort of ref position / 4 points, and you can see here Nathan starts snapping the back of the head. The hands, Achilles' hands are already on the floor, snaps the back of the head, and decides to actually shoot in a front headlock. So capitalize on chest to back exposure, and now we are in a sort of textbook front headlock exchange. Of course, Achilles is a very good grappler, very athletic wrestler, and he just hits what is known as a false drag or a sucker drag, and he just sort of swoops out. There you go. You can see here grabbing the elbow. This is a textbook sucker drag, bringing the head onto the far side of Nathan's center line, and eventually they both come up and they reset the position. Okay, so there you go. 3 uses for a snap. Number 1, probing your opponent's reactions. Number 2, slightly more high-tech way of resetting the position than just simply pushing someone away. And number 3, actually getting your partner's hands to the floor and capitalize on chest-to-back exposure.